Hey, good morning, everyone. We're going to get into 1 Samuel 28 today, and we've got a lot of ground to cover in this section of David's life, and there's some very, very important lessons for us today. And what I want to say is I want to share a verse in Romans in the New Testament, and I want to start off by us asking ourselves this question and see how this plays out in this account of David that we're going to look at. And where we find ourselves in Romans, it's Romans chapter 7, verse 18. And that verse says, "For I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, nothing good dwells. For to will is present with me, but how to perform what is good I do not find." Now, at this moment, before we go through this account of David, you may hear that, and I may hear that and go, yeah, whatever, whatever. This is, it's that flesh stuff again. It's that sin stuff that this guy wants to talk about. And yes, that is exactly right. Our flesh screams out, and to be able to read that, to read that verse, and for I know that in me nothing good dwells. That may be hard for you to say right now. Hang with me. Let's look at this together. So, starting off in chapter 28 of 1 Samuel, it says, "Now it happened in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for war to fight with Israel. And Achish said to David, 'You assuredly know that you will go out with me to battle, you and your men.' So David said to Achish, 'Surely you know what your servant can do.' And Achish said to David, 'Therefore I will make you one of my chief guardians forever.'" Now, it's been a bit since we've been together in our studies, and just real quick, remember, David has completely defected to the Philistines. He is with King Achish. King Achish has given him the city of Ziklag, which really was already a territory of Judah anyway. And we looked at this in past studies of what's going on. I mean, where's David going? And he's really at the bottom here. He's with the enemy. He's now going to battle with the Israelites. And yes, he's in the battle, but he's on the wrong side. He's with the Philistines. And even to such a degree that Achish says to him, "Therefore I will make you one of my chief guardians forever." What has taken place for the king of the Philistines to look at David and say, "Man, you're my chief. You're my guy," and at the outskirts of going to battle with the Israelites. And we're going to relook at that and in a certain way here. But before we do, this next section of chapter 28, verses 3 through 25. I'm not going to go into this now. We will reference back to this later on. And the essence of it is Saul is at his wit's end. God has cut him off. There's no counsel from God. No counsel from the prophets that surround him, and he's looking to see what to do because he's scared. The Philistines are right on his doorstep. He's about to go to battle. He's trying to figure out what to do, and what he ends up doing is he consults a medium, and performs it. And this medium performs a séance, and in this séance, Samuel, who's dead, Samuel is brought forth, and there's this interaction between Saul and Samuel. Now, so the two key things that I want to point out is one, where do we go when we die? And we can piece this section together with some other aspects of the Bible, and we will do that later on, and we'll come back to this, because where's Samuel coming from? He's raised from somewhere. So there's this interaction. So that's one. And then secondly, Samuel does tell Saul that he's going to die. He's saying, "Hey, you're going to die in this battle with the Philistines," and we will see that play out at the end of 1 Samuel in chapter 31, where Saul and his sons do die. So we will come back to this. All right, so chapter 28, or there at the beginning of 28 that we just read, what's going on with David? Here he is getting this information from Achish saying, "Hey, you're going to be my guardian forever." And David's completely an outcast here. I mean, he is as far away as he possibly can be But where is he in God's eyes? Where is he from the perspective of God? And what is it that God does with outcasts? What does God do with us when we're an outcast? And as reference, let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 4 through 5. This is back in the time of Moses. And there in chapter 30 of Deuteronomy, verse 4, here's what God says. He says, if any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under heaven, which David's pretty far right now. He's about to go up against his own people. If any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under heaven, from there the Lord your God will gather you, and from there he will bring you. Then the Lord your God will bring you to the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. He will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers. Also, in the New Testament, John chapter 10, verse 29. There in that verse, Jesus says, my Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. Romans chapter 8, verses 38 and 39. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. So yes, outcast. And yes, believer, you may find yourself in a place right now where, maybe you're in a life of compromise, just like David is right now in this moment. He's at an arena of great compromise in his life. Again, to the point where, he's on the wrong side. He's with the enemy. And not only is he with the enemy, he's going up against his own people. So how does that apply to us today, right now? November 2012. What is your life like on a daily basis? What is my life like on a daily basis? Where do we find ourselves? We go out with our friends, and one of the instructions that we find in the Bible is be in the world, but not be of the world. So there's this kind of paradox that we walk as believers, and this paradox that we walk, is using Jesus as an example. Jesus finds himself sitting right next to the sinners. He's even chastised by the religious system, by the Pharisees. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing hanging out with the sinners? And one of Jesus' responses is so beautiful. He says, hey, you know what? It's the sick that need a physician. Right? So there he is. He's in the world, but he's not of the world. Because we are told to be a peculiar people. We're told to be a separate people. Right? We're told to be a light in the world. Well, how do we be that light in the world? Well, we've got to be in the world. But again, we can't be of the world. So in those moments, are you embarrassed to share Jesus? Are you embarrassed? Am I embarrassed to let my light shine? So that's one of the ways that we can apply this very thing here is are you going to live in compromise? Are you going to be totally outcast and live in compromise? And that's what David is here. And maybe you're there. And I want to encourage you, the verses that I just read, you're still in God's grace. You're still in that grace. We will not be snatched from his hand. We see how God handles his outcasts. No matter how far we've gone, he pulls us back. What about the sheepfold? What about the one that's as important as the 99? So be encouraged with that. May we all be encouraged by that. And if we find ourselves in that area of compromise, come back. Come back. Just and submit. And that's even referencing back to that first verse that we read in Romans 7:18. Is can you say that? Can I say that? There's no good thing in me, because it's in that very moment. It's in our weakness. It's in our It's where we have that moment of seeing our self-will, all the ththings that we do. I got to do it. I got to figure it out. I got to do it. It's finally in that moment of just where we get to stand among the ruins of our self-will. We get to really see and be real with what our self-will has gotten us. And it's in that moment of weakness, right there, where God says, hey, come, come. All you are who are heavy, who are carrying that heavy burden, I'll give you rest. So David's there with the Philistines. And it says in chapter 29, then the Philistines gathered together all their armies at Aphek, and the Israelites encamped by a fountain which is in Jezreel. And the lords of the Philistines passed in review by hundreds and by thousands. But David and his men passed in review at the rear with Achish. Then the princes of the Philistines said, what are these Hebrews doing here? Whoa. Right? I mean, what's up with that? When you walk in the bar, and you're sitting down and you're in compromise and you order up a big fat Guinness or what have you. I mean, is alcohol bad? There's no complete stance on that. But just because we can do something, should we do it? So that's got to play out for your own self. That's between you and God. But as we're there, what are the others around us saying? Hey, what is this Christian doing here? Then the princes of the Philistines said, what are these Hebrews doing here? And Achish said to the princes of the Philistines, is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me these days or these years? And to this day I have found no fault in him since he defected to me. But the princes of the Philistines were angry with him. So the princes of the Philistines said to him, make this fellow return, that he may go back to the place which you have appointed for him, and do not let him go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become our adversary. For with what could he reconcile himself to his master, if not with the heads of these men? Is this not David, of whom they sing to one another in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? So these princes are, hey, what's going on? Why are we going to take this guy into battle with us? And what better thing for him to do than in this moment of battle turn on us and take our heads to his own master. His own master in this case would be Saul, to the Israelites. And then Achish has this interaction with him and basically says, hey, I trust in you. I have found no evil in you since the day that we've met. Nevertheless, the lords, these princes, do not find favor in you. And David, says, hey, what have I done? In verse 8, what have I done? I've been with you this time. Haven't you found favor in me this whole time? And Achish says to him, verse 9, I know that you are good in my sight as an angel of God. Nevertheless, the princes of the Philistines have said, he shall not go up with us to battle. Now therefore, rise early in the morning with your master's servants who have come with you. And as soon as you are up early in the morning and in the light, depart. And have light, depart. So David and his men rose early to depart in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines. And the Philistines went up to Jezreel. Chapter 30. Now it happened when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south in Ziklag, attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken captive the women and those who were there from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but carried them away and went their way. So David and his men came to the city, and there it was, burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Here it is. Here it is. That moment of weakness. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. Have you been there? Have I been there? To stand right there in the ruins of your self-will, how you've pieced it together. How it all comes to light in that moment, right there, standing again in the ruins of your self-will. I got it. I can do this. I'll put this together. Don't miss that. Don't miss that. Just meditate. See David and his men there, just in that great weeping. And I want to close with this. I didn't make it to where I wanted to today, but we'll pick up tomorrow. We started off with Romans 7:18, looking at there's no good in me. But let's finish with Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. And he says, and this is the hope. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. All right, guys. God bless you. See you tomorrow.